Thank you all for coming today. For some of you, this presentation will be a review of stuff that we've covered in the past, but there's a lot of new people here, and I just want to give those people a framework for why Heal the Bay is embarking on this program, specifically with our partners. And so the idea behind it is really looking at healthy neighborhoods, healthy communities, and the importance of a healthy environment for those areas and vice versa. You can't have a healthy community without having a healthy environment, and you can't have a healthy environment without having a healthy neighborhood as part of it. And all too often I think we get caught up with Heal the Bay is an environmental group, and that the environment is depicted as something very natural with trees, oceans, beaches, and mountains. But more often than not, the environment in which we all live in and operate in on a day-to-day basis is kind of what you see in the lower picture there. Asphalt, concrete, it's the built environment. And what we don't often realize is that built environment, it's reciprocative. In terms of our impact, the first definition, the combination of external physical conditions that affect and influence growth, is how the environment impacts you. But then if you look at the second definition, it's really how we impact the environment. And when we start looking at how this plays out, as simply as looking at downtown LA. I put up that slide, and what was in the news today in the LA Times was, once again, LA was the smoggiest city, not only in the country, but in California. And when you look at where we build our communities relative to major thoroughfares, that's the environment in which we live in, the built environment, really have an impact on our community. And vice versa, the smog that's created is us having an impact on the environment, creating poor air quality by the actions of driving and moving around town. Another aspect of looking at how the built environment impacts us is look at just the amount of open space we find in South L.A., in East L.A., in San Fernando Valley, relative to other parts of not only the country, but other parts of the state. And when you look at the discrepancy in the amount of park acreage available for kids and for ourselves, and then begin to wonder about obesity rates and diabetes, there is a slight correlation here. And I'm going to jump ahead real quick. When we start looking at the aesthetics of what's around us, is it any wonder that these conditions that affect our health, whether it's obesity coupled with the lack of open space, with the proliferation of fast food or even liquor stores, or the lack of open space that we do have is really just vacant lots being underutilized and in essence becoming dumping grounds. And so when you start looking at why Heal the Bay is here, we start looking, is this just a water quality problem? Heal the Bay is all too often associated with, well, we care about that last photo there, which is Compton Creek. It's the natural part of Compton Creek that becomes earth and bottom, and there's a lot of habitat there. But if we get all the trash there, is it doing anything upstream, either at the catch basin, in the street there, or even within the neighborhood? And so the idea about embarking on this program and working with our community partners is to say, let's work collectively together to rid that first picture of all the trash, and then let's promote something better. Let's put something that's aesthetically much of a water quality component by the amount of water that can be infiltrated into the ground there, and therefore we would be highly supportive of projects like this with our community partners who are often looking for greater open space for the kids to venture, play in, instead of having to look at this within our community. And so it's been well documented that there is a positive correlation between open space, green infrastructure, and improved mental health. That's often lost in our discussions. We often talk about more direct health impacts, again, like asthma rates, like obesity rates. But what's often lost is mental health, and that plays a strong role in developing green space and improving mental health, not to mention tying our communities together and lowering crime rates. Look, let me jump ahead. And so what Gila Bay is bringing to the table today, and what we're trying to put a framework around is, what is a healthy neighborhood or a healthy community? It's one that embraces the quality of life within a community. And this isn't news to most people, but what is news is the ability to bring broad, diverse groups together and look at where those nexus points, where those connections are, and let's work together on issues that can take areas of our community like this and make them into something like this. So not only do we get the trash out of the system, but we also promote usable public places, getting people out of the house, getting people to environmental message beyond just working on oceans and working on watersheds, but to include an environmental health component, so that the environmental message has at its root an environmental health background. Promote green infrastructure. That's what you saw with improving parks, providing greater open space, providing garden areas, community gardens, developing partnerships and alliances, really building that capital. And in order to do that, we have to come together collectively and work out some issues regarding trust, cooperation, and then enable our networks that we form to really flourish and balance the resources that Gila Bay can bring, but also the resources that the community partners can bring. And you're going to see a lot of great work that has been done by our community partners, and it's just testament to what we're trying to do collectively. And then finally, but in addition, we need to move beyond singular issues. We are past the point in terms of where community issues can be dealt with in a singular fashion. We need to get out of a siloed mentality that is too often pervasive, not only in government, but also in foundations and grantors, but also in nonprofits and how we set up. Because a community, an issue affects all elements of the community, not just a single component. And finding the diversity in those issues means we have to find the collective points of where we sync together and work together. And then finally, educating one another on who's really governing out there, who really has the power, the control, and making these land use decisions and making these regulatory decisions and enforcing them. So really understanding the governance component, and then how do we have access to that governance? How do we get the public really participating and advocating on what needs the community has? And so really trying to bridge this gap that historically, I would argue, has taken place, where we have schools, crime, housing, jobs, health, and a lot of community issues really separated from air, open space, water, and land uses, which tend to be environmental, and really looking at a lot of these are connected. And they're connected, but we don't have easy mechanisms to define, or we don't have a map that lays out where those connections are. And so the partnerships that come together under our Healthy Neighborhoods kind of initiative really helps to try to connect those issues together. And finally, it's to highlight also that although we're here in South L.A., that we're not alone in taking on these issues, that there are other people. There you have Compton High School. Not only other people, but other generations. That the high school students are taking a stand, leading a cleanup in Compton Creek. Down in Echo Park, they're leading an effort to try to clean up that Echo Park neighborhood. And that we're not alone, and that collectively, as we stand together, we can make a difference in taking over a neighborhood. And this was the March for Water that took place last year, going through kind of, there's a Lincoln Heights area, and demanding, a better neighborhood and a better community for the San Fernando, Lincoln Heights, Taylor Yard, that area. And it's just, we're onto something here. And so it's fun, and I'm happy to see this collective work together.